What's going on, guys? It's Cimoooooooo. So today I'm bringing to you a video on how you can earn your invite to the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship Qualifier. This is a big deal because for a lot of players, this is their first leap into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! So not only is it an incredible milestone, but also it's the ability for you to test your skills to see just how good you really are. So I'm going to be going over 5 different ways you can obtain your invite to not only see what works best for you, but also to explain how each of these tournament structures work. But before we get into that, I want to give a huge shout out to my newest patrons as always. So big shout outs today to Brian, to Eder, as well as Jazz. You guys are the reason that this channel is growing strong. And if you guys want to help support me in the channel through Patreon, then check out the Patreon link in the description below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So starting off with the first method, and probably the most common way of obtaining your invite, is through regional tournaments. Now, regional tournaments take place all across different countries and different continents, and they're just in plentiful abundance. Just by checking the listing of what locations the regionals will be taking place, I would say commonly over the course of a year, you're gonna have a couple regionals that should only be within a couple hours of your area. And if you're lucky enough, it might even be taking place in your hometown. So how do regionals work? Well, regionals work by utilizing the Swiss style structure of tournament system. Now, what does this mean? Well, this essentially means that however many rounds a tournament is, you're going to get to play every single round, compared to something like single elimination, where as soon as you lose, you're out of the tournament. So the benefit here is that you get to play through all the different rounds of a tournament and play against a wide variety of opponents. Now, let's say for instance that this hypothetical regional has 200 players. So depending on the attendance of the regional, that's not only going to dictate how many rounds a tournament will be, but also how many invites they're going to award to the World Championship Qualifier. So looking at some charts from the official Konami documents, since this hypothetical regional has 200 players, that means we're going to be playing 8 rounds of Swiss, and they're going to award 32 invites. So that's really cool. Now, how this works is as the tournament progresses, you're playing all your different opponents. At the end of the 8 rounds, the 32 players with the best records are going to be the players that obtain their invites. Now, by best records, I'm talking about the players that are going to go 8-0, 8 wins, 0 losses, 7-1, and 6-2. And maybe if you're lucky, if you have a draw in there as well as maybe a loss, you should be able to sneak in and get your invite as well. Now, the thing you have to realize about this is really beneficial because you could lose the first and second round of a regional, but if you win out the last 6, most likely you're still going to get your invite. So you have the opportunity for a little bit of error as long as you do better than the rest of the field on average. And if you end up in the top 32 at the end of 8 rounds, then congratulations, because you just got your invite to the World Championship Qualifier. Now, another way you can obtain your invite is also by attending YCS level events. Now, these tournaments in comparison are much fewer and far between because they're much larger and the prize pool is much greater. So players are going to be traveling from all over the country to attend these events. However, in comparison to regionals, you might only play a regional of 7 rounds, 8 rounds, maybe 9 rounds if, you know, there's just a large attendance. But when it comes to YCSs, you're going to be playing 10 or even 11 rounds of Swiss before it cuts to the top 32, which is where you get your invite. And these tournaments are over the course of 2 days, and since players are traveling from all over the country, the average skill level of a player attending a YCS is going to be much higher than someone who might be attending a regional. So YCSs are probably the most difficult way to obtain your invite, but it's still a way you can obtain your invite nonetheless. So after 10 or 11 rounds of Swiss, if you have one of the best records in the room, you're going to make the top 32 cut. Not only are you going to get your invite, but you're also going for the good prize pool at the YCS level as well. Now, one cool benefit of YCSs, and this moves us into our third method of obtaining your invite, is that if you scrub out in the first couple of rounds, you actually have an opportunity to still obtain your invite in the side events at the regional flights. Now, regional flights are not regional qualifiers, but actually a completely separate event altogether. Rather than being a Swiss-style tournament where you're playing over the course of multiple rounds to have the best record, a regional flight is a 16-person single elimination tournament, which means if you can win 4 rounds in a row against 4 different opponents, then you're going to be able to obtain your invite because it's a little bit more high risk, high reward reward because there isn't really a lot of room for error. However, you're playing a lot less rounds. So because you only have to win 4 rounds in a row, some people might argue it's one of the easier ways to obtain your invite because if you're confident enough in your own abilities, winning 4 games in a row shouldn't be too difficult. However, since you're at a YCS, you're going to be competing against other players at the YCS who are also maybe dropping out of the main event, so the skill level is still going to be much higher in comparison. But if you can go 4-0 and manage to win that regional flight, then congratulations, you got your invite to the World Championship Qualifier. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Cimo, well, maybe I can't travel because it's too expensive, or maybe I'm too young and my parents won't let me travel long distances to go to tournaments. What options are out there for me? Well, there is still hope for you yet, because OTS Championships are another way that you're capable of earning your invite. OTS Championships are hosted by official tournament stores that are locally run all across the country. And what's cool about these is, since they're at your locals, it might only be 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes from your house, and you have the opportunity to obtain your invite in your own backyard. Now, these are also run using the Swiss style. Imagine when you go to your locals, it's pretty much like playing a regular local tournament, except you have the opportunity to obtain your invite to the World Championship Qualifier as one of the prizes. So that's what makes this much more coveted compared to a more typical local tournament. Now, one of the big differences here, and arguably makes this the easiest way to obtain your invite, is the fact that since you're playing at the local level, the average skill gap is going to be lower than probably compared to something like a regional or a YCS, since pretty much the audience or the participants competing in this tournament might just be the people you see at your locals on a regular basis. Sure, some other people might show up that might not typically come as often, but for the most part, it's going to be typically comprised of your local Yu-Gi-Oh community and maybe a couple of other people that might have traveled from out of town because they might still need their invite as well. So since you're still following the Swiss style format, but since the participant number is going to be so much lower, you might only have to play 4 rounds, 5 rounds, maybe 6 rounds of Swiss at most. But if you have the best record out of all of that, then you're going to be able to get your invite for pretty much the least amount of effort, but also still having some room for error. When it comes compared to the regional flight, there's no room for error. You have to win 4-0 and that's it. Whereas when it comes to the OTS Championships, you have the opportunity to maybe lose 1 game, so that way your record's still going to be one of the best records, so that when you make that top 4, because only the top 4 players at these tournaments do get their invites, you're going to be able to get your invite and you're going to be set for the World Championship Qualifier. Now, if you go through all of these different means and you still weren't able to obtain your invite, you were grinding the regionals, the YCSs, your OTS Championships, and you still had no luck, there is one last chance for you to get your invite, and that's why it's properly named the Last Chance Qualifier. At the World Championship Qualifier that takes place every year, on the Friday before the event, you're able to compete in what is known as the Last Chance Qualifier. What these are essentially regional flights, which are 16-person single elimination tournaments against other players who are there also trying to get their invite at the last possible second in order to compete in the big tournament on the next day. Now, I've done an entire video on how to maximize your success in the Last Chance Qualifier, so if you want to check that out, I'll have the link in the description below. But basically, very similarly to the regional flight, you just have to go 4-0, and if you do, then you're going to be set for the big dance on the following day. So guys, I really hope this video helps you out, and I really hope you enjoyed just all the different ways that are available for you guys to obtain your invite and compete at the World Championship Qualifier. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and if there's anything I did forget, be sure to let me know down in the comments below. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video informative, consider backing me on Patreon, because just by pledging only $1 a month, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time. 1, 2, 3.